This is the Aptitude Outdoors podcast, where we interview travelers, explorers, and outdoorsmen and women to bring you the best tips and stories from around the world.
Now that I'm drunk, only been here for like an hour.
Well, they called all day IPA for a reason.
Yeah, we brought a 15
Because we get drunk all day.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Aptitude Outdoors podcast. We are coming at you today from the Wildwood Anglers shop, downtown Sylvania.
Sir.
This is the coolest backdrop yet, I think, I've had on the podcast for people watching.
It's just cozy.
We're here with recurring guest, Mr. Ryan Martin, and the owner of the shop, Bradley Dunkle. Brad, everybody already knows Ryan. Why don't you give us a little 2 seconds about yourself? Which probably turn into about 45 minutes.
Oh, that's all right. I don't like to talk about me. I'm from Sylvania. Born and raised South U kid. Moved out west when I was 19. Guided fly fishing trips for 12 years, about 200 trips a year for those 12 years. Took me 11 years to get my undergrad from Colorado State.
I believe that.
Which is 4 years longer than it took Tommy Boy. But I'm pretty proud of that. And then, had a lovely woman that stole my heart, and here I am back in my hometown and doing what I love. So can't complain when, you're running your own fly shop.
I've heard that story about 500 times already.
Yeah, that's right.
Every time you meet somebody, I hear that same story.
Good.
I almost could have said it for you.
But, I didn't blaspheme it about my wife this time.
No. That's later.
Normally I just, it's the stick in the mud or the old ball and chain, but no, she's great.
The accountant.
Yeah, my number cruncher, my money launderer.
Somebody's got to be good with money. Man, I find it crazy that we used to work together at the parks. We had a lot of mishaps, fun adventures.
Yes.
Canceled afternoons that turned into drinking.
Those were a lot of fun. Archery days.
Getting shot by kids with arrows.
Where did we go that day? What was the
I was telling Ryan this right before we started.
Were.
We had an archery program at West Winds.
Yep.
It got rained out, so we put all the stuff away, and we went to the Haven. It's a bar in Swan. It's like the diviest of dive bars.
Which is my kind of place in general.
You look like the kind of guy who would love a dive bar.
That was my thing out west, man. Like the divier, the better.
Well, we walk in there, and
always interesting folk. In those bars.
Always.
Well, we're in there, and we're sitting down at the bar, just ordering whatever. They only have like 3 options on tap. It's like Bud Light, Miller Lite, and Coors Light.
Yeah.
Cans of Busch.
Bud Heavy.
Yep.
And we start playing around in the jukebox.
Oh, God.
And these old dudes in there, like the dude that has never left the 70s. He's sitting at the bar just drinking his Budweiser, like taking a smoke break outside every 15 minutes. He was looking at us like, these assholes.
Oh, yeah. We were going to stink eye pretty bad.
And then what do we play?
Oh, some old country, some good country. Merle, we had, what did we play first? Like Ramblin' Fever or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And immediately they're like, all right.
These boys ain't so bad.
Man, I guess you can't judge a book by its cover. But
Paula, another red stripe.
Man, that was a fun afternoon. I'm just like blown away that you were able to open a fly shop in Toledo, Ohio. Because when Ryan was on the podcast, we were talking about how like it's crazy how like unpopular it is in this, like everywhere else with like big rivers and stuff. Everybody's fly fishing all the time. It's like run of the mill, like that's just what they do.
Yep.
We're in the middle of Ohio. Well, northwestern tip. Yeah, northwestern tip of Ohio. I had to think
yes,
there.
Indeed.
These beers are getting me. But man, like how the hell did you get the balls to open a fly shop in Sylvania?
Honestly, probably just stupidity. Yeah,
I can see that.
Fortunately, I didn't just jump into this blindly. Like I, in fact, before I got my job at Metro Parks, I had approached them just out like a volunteer basis and was like, look, I have applied to several jobs, but it seems like it's a little bit political to get in. I'm just trying to get my foot in the door. I talked to Lori Miller up there, who I love. She's awesome. But she's like, told her kind of my background and stuff. And she's like, well, I got to put you in touch with our outdoor skills manager, Ashley. So talked to Ashley, and she was like, well, what do you think about doing contract work? Like fly tying classes and casting clinics and stuff like that. I'm like, yes, 100%. I'm all about that. So being that was the case, I wanted to start an LLC and then get general liability insurance to cover my butt, just so, some
need
kid
that.
slips and falls and, whatever. All of a sudden, he's coming after all of my assets.
Which is about $5,000
At that point, it wasn't a whole lot, but
It's like 3 streamers.
yeah, just shitty old fly box. Anyhow, so I did that, and then of course, like right after I set all this stuff up, Ashley approaches me and is just like, "Hey, do you want a part-time job?" I'm like, "Sure." All right, cool. Actually, in my field, I go from being a natural resource grad in a target-rich environment as far as employers to Toledo, Ohio, where tourism and natural resources aren't, our top-tier jobs. So it was nice to get into the field, but at that point, I still had the LLC. I still had my general liability insurance. So just kind of did the Gary Vaynerchuk, got to have your side hustle. So was guiding, and most of our guide trips at that point, I was taking out and getting a lot of repeat clientele, and then word of mouth goes a long way in fly fishing, especially Toledo. And then just picked up more and more guide trips. It was almost a year to the date that I put in my 2 weeks notice at Metro Parks because I just couldn't juggle both. Mm-hmm. And it's a real easy decision whether to work for the man or work for yourself.
Exactly.
So did that, and kind of had in the back of my head, look, you got to have brick and mortar eventually to establish a little bit of credibility.
Well, you talked about that for a long time, because I remember you'd call me and we'd talk, and we'd be like, I don't know if I want to do this.
Right.
And you had a couple locations in mind, just a ton of back and forth of and then one day you're like, I got this place down in Sylvania. I was like, how the hell are you going to open a fly shop in Sylvania? But it's sweet, man. It's amazing in here.
This place, we put a lot of work into it. If you saw what it looked like before, it was Sheffield Road was the name of it, like a boutique, wedding registry type place, and looked 100% different. But yeah, I mean, as soon as I felt like we had enough clientele, that we could use it as a home base for the guide service. Primarily, it was just going to be kind of like you see with this bar, not a ton of product, just somewhere we could stash our guide waders, boots, rods, all that stuff. Have a meeting point for guide trips, and then it was like, well, shit, this opened up really good, affordable rent, and it's not too big, not too small.
There's a brewery up the street.
Which actually, honestly, put a lot of vibrance back into downtown Sylvania.
Yeah, absolutely did.
And I'm a firm believer in location with any business, but particularly with fly shop, you want foot traffic. Downtown, especially cutesy, artsy, fartsy downtowns. Typically, those are the winning, locations for shops. So when this place opened up, it was like, all right, we got enough, clientele. Let's pull the trigger. And, a year and a half later, here we are with a full shop, not just of my personal stuff to make the walls look full.
It's high end stuff too.
It is.
You're not selling off-brand crap.
I feel like if you want that stuff, you can go to Bass Pro, you can go to Cabela's, you can go to Fin Feather Fur. They're a little better as far as quality, compared to Bass Pro and Cabela's, but nobody was doing it because nobody really knew what a really great fly shop was that had the balls to put their, livelihood on the line to try it, which, calculated risk, but ultimately I felt like it was something that, I'm passionate enough about and knowledgeable enough about that I thought I could make it work.
Well, it was funny because...
And it's working. It's working.
You called me the other night, and you and Ryan were here. Just hanging out, drinking after hours, having some fun.
Which happens, man.
Yeah.
It happens.
It's like a hangout shop.
It can be a beacon.
It is. And honestly, and Ryan, you can attest to this.
Absolutely.
Any fly shop that is worth, its weight is a spot that people can come in and not feel obligated that they have to buy something. It's a spot where you can come in, shoot the breeze, I don't know, share some observations from what you saw on the river that day or the week before, and, kind of get spitball with each other, get feedback, kind of team build, if you will. And then, again, a spot that's just kind of homey. We'll have a chocolate lab puppy running around in here, our team mascot here pretty soon. Just somewhere you can come in, chill, not feel cross-armed, oh God. And, it's a place that's inviting that you want to come hang out at.
Well, I mean, for Ryan, for you, it's got to be amazing. I mean, you're all about this stuff, and like, who do you get to talk to about this? Like,
yeah, right in my backyard too. If you can't bring a 6-pack into the fly shop and just shoot the shit, it shouldn't be called a fly shop.
Right?
what about
That's a
15
bait
pack?
store.
Honestly, you're selling minnows.
Hey man, do
you're
you have
selling
any?
minnows.
Do you have any wax worms? We actually get that quite a bit.
I bet.
I'm like, no, man, sorry.
Yeah.
But Walmart does.
Right.
They actually do.
Right.
Which is
They sell
all
Bud
sorts of
Light
messed up.
and a $15 fishing rods.
Yeah, man, and those styrofoam coolers just for you.
So for the two of you guys, favorite trips that you would guide, kind of Brad, for you, where would you kind of say places that you guide regionally? What are some of your favorite trips?
For me, I'm partial to any drift boat trip just because it's a completely unique experience compared to walk and wade, and it's not just because I'm lazy and don't want to walk. I mean, yeah, there's times, trust me, my wife will attest to that. But yeah, I mean, like the float trip, it's more you just kind of zen out a little bit more. You feel like you're more on the pulse of what's going on. I mean, you're literally going with the flow of the river and a little bit different perspective. Personally, I like northern Michigan because again, it's a little bit more isolated, lot better scenery in my opinion. So like the Upper Manistee, in the summertime for trout is one of my favorites. The Pine River is a beautiful stream. Like I grew up on the Pure Marquette, and that place always will have a special place in my heart. Like I cut my teeth on that river, but it's just gotten so. It's a river that has a lot of lore for a good reason. But I don't go out to fish to play bumper boats and leapfrog. So I would probably say, the Betsy, the Pine, the Upper Manistee are three of my favorites.
Absolutely.
And, there's a handful. Every river's got its own nuances and its own unique, dynamics to it. So offhand, I'll go with those three, but, different times of year, different rivers, offer different stuff. So just kind of depends what you're chasing and, how far away from people you want to get.
What's your favorite river up in Michigan?
Favorite river altogether, I would have to agree the Manistee is on that list. I really jump back and forth between getting in the boat, hitting the big rivers, and then falling in love again with walk and wade.
Yeah.
And just exploring. And there's nothing but that solitude of being able to, go down a 2-track, find, a different bend that you haven't seen before, and just figure that out on your own.
Yep.
That's like a every year type of love type of thing.
And those rivers are always changing too.
Gosh,
so
yeah.
you got
every year it's different.
Sediment deposition. You've got
new log jams
that blow out, log jams that come in. That and this too, like flows, just different flows.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh man, last year this looked way different. But
same week every year is never the same.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works, man. It's very like steelhead for instance, like just how conditional they are.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
So all of those things we're just describing, can be a huge difference, like a make or break type thing for steelhead.
Well, it's crazy because
you always got to adjust and evolve and be on, thinking on the fly.
Well, I've been out fishing with both of you.
You like what I did right there too?
With Ryan, I went walleye fishing, which is like local, super to this region. That's like a huge deal. Like
Absolutely.
the walleye run is like the be all end all for Toledo. And then I went with you. I didn't fish so much as filmed you guys like a little commercial for your shop.
We
went
walleye
up.
fish?
No, we went up to the Manistee. We went up
that's
to
right. It was
you
hot,
and John.
hot water conditions and not good fishing.
Well, it sucked because I made you guys like we got to fish in the daylight, dude. We're making.
Oh yeah,
us,
that was
right?
like hex. It was hex time.
It was nighttime game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So he's like, this isn't going to be great. I was
Right.
like, well, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't have
Where's
like,
that thermal lens, man?
Figure out how to nighttime mouse.
Yep, we can
and
do like
film us.
Blair Witch Project stuff.
It was funny because we were out on the river all freaking day. We were
was
probably on the
hot.
river. Yeah, it was hot. We were like out there for 12 hours. Just like you weren't working. We were just up there hanging out, drove up there and like met you guys at like 1 a.m. I got off work. I drove like the 4.5 hours or whatever up to Manistee.
Right.
And you're like, oh, it's just on this road with this camper. You'll see it. Like, okay. So I'm driving around up in northern Michigan, middle of the night. And then there's no cell service up there. You're just like in the middle of nowhere. These
Cell
dudes,
service is overrated.
you and John texted me like, hey man, we're up here in the Manistee. We're fishing. It's like an hour north of where we're sleeping. Meet us up there. So I'm like halfway there, and you're like, no, we're not catching anything. Never mind. Turn around, like I'm just driving around in the middle of the freaking night. Finally get to this camper, and it was nuts. You guys, like, we were just like slamming beers. No, I get there at pitch black. I'd have never seen the place. It's a camper in the middle of the woods, like classic hunting
Deer camp.
Deer camp in the middle of Michigan. I brought like a 12-pack of Truth IPA or something. We were like 8% or something.
Gone. Like
we,
0.2.
we just hammered them down. And then these guys are like busting out elk steaks at like 3 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
Then we wake up at like 7, 8 a.m. and just go out and hit the river hard all day.
And the heat.
It was brutal,
God.
but it was
Fly camp, though.
Oh, hangovers.
That's fly
hangovers
camp.
in the heat.
Yeah.
Whew.
I loved it. The only part about that trip I absolutely hated was I crashed my drone.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
But Brad saved it, man. He got the net out. He was like, "We're not losing that footage."
Oh man, no.
Made it in the video.
Oh man, I saw that. I was hoping it would still work. Actually, I thought we could get to it.
It didn't work.
I was hoping we could get to it quick enough where it would just be like a blade that you could get replaced. But turns out electronics, submerged.
Yeah.
Doesn't always
You and
work
John
out.
are trying to reassure me.
Get
like,
the rice.
Yeah, like, dude, it's gonna be fine. I'm like, it's a flying machine that's electronic that's submerged fully underwater for like 5 minutes. It's not gonna be okay.
Yeah, who innovated that? Just make it
A
submersible.
non-waterproof.
Yeah, just
drone?
make it
Dude,
submersible.
Sweet.
Well, it's meant to be in the air.
Well,
It's
yeah,
not
but
supposed
maybe
to
we
be.
can
That's
make like an
true, yeah.
amphibious vehicle. Be like an Argo.
It was. We turned it on the next
flies.
morning, and it just like jumping on the table up and down, and it was
Right.
just like one propeller was going.
Oh,
it was
that's awesome.
nuts.
Okay, at least it's kind of working.
Yeah, hey, Brad's like, it's kind of working, dude. It'll be okay.
Do you feel better? Do you feel better? It's kind of working. Do you feel okay?
You guys caught like 2 brown trout.
It was
that
not
day.
good.
I was
It
like,
was
I'm
not
sorry.
good fishing.
I was like trying to crop the video
But
to make
yeah.
them look bigger, but like it was just like this.
Yeah,
little
they're
Right.
12 and 13-inch browns. They're not
worst
big.
commercial
Yeah.
ever.
But honestly, like
On the hex nights, though,
oh, it
you
was-
can't compete,
exactly.
man.
They're
You can't
not.
compete.
They're not feeding during the day
No.
when they've got these gigantic hexagenal limbadas. Everybody here knows them from Lake Erie, but don't know the half about their life history.
Well, it's cool going out with dudes who know shit because like you were showing me a whole bunch of stuff about the river that I didn't know and like teaching me like better technique for walleye fishing and all this stuff. You're out there like explaining hex mud and we like pull over on the side of the road and Brad's like, "Oh, check this out." And I'm just like it's almost like going on a nature walk, but it's like 12 hours straight of just
Right.
being like hammered down with like the coolest facts. Like, man, that shit's so real to me. Like, that's why I love it. And like going out with people because when you go out with people who don't know what they're doing, it sucks.
Oh, and you can tell
Oh,
right
yeah.
away.
It's
They don't know.
it's
not enjoyable.
It's boring.
And the best part about like fly fishing and a lot of heady outdoor activities like archery and stuff is you never stop learning. I don't care who you are. Like there's always whether it's observationally, but there's always new stuff that you can either improve yourself on or learn more about like the ecological side and then the connections with other species and then it ultimately is making you a better outdoorsman. But you're going to be smarter too. But ideally, it's going to help you be a better angler or whatever you're doing, hunting.
Right.
But yeah, you never stop learning. And anybody who tells you like, "Yeah, I've been doing this for 50 years. There's not really much left for me to learn." Bullshit.
Lies. Yeah.
Bullshit.
Well, you guys were talking about different kinds of boats and shit earlier.
Yep.
You kind of came to a consensus. What's there to look for in like a fly fishing boat if you're someone like me who doesn't ever do it?
I would say wholeheartedly, and I think Brad would agree, there's 2 different complete types of fly fishing boat. One with a motor and one without. And both have their days and both have their rivers and both have their situations. And I'm not versed in the drift boat like he'll explain. And I go full on motorboat.
Yeah.
And he'll drift it
Which
up.
is great for bigger water and
Yeah.
drift boats. I fell in love with them up on the Pure Marquette growing up. My best friend's dad had one, but out west, you can run class 3s, class 3 pluses, and as long as you're not going into a wave sideways, you can navigate those waters no problem. They're built for it. They have a lifetime warranty on the hull, so they're made for like Clackercraft. Their motto is "Fear no rock." But essentially, drift boats, They've got a lot of rocker, so kind of that banana shape on the bottom, which it makes it really good for maneuverability side to side. Doesn't necessarily track straight, but it's not that hard to track when you're rowing. They're very lightweight. Like mine's a fiberglass, super lightweight. Very little. You're not drafting deep. You only got like a 4-inch draft, and most of it's right in the right rowing station because the back and the front of the boat kind of at the top of the banana. And yeah, they're this.
They're versatile.
They're versatile. Like I have a motor mount on mine.
Yep.
I can throw a little 6-horse kicker on it.
Absolutely.
You can go on big water, go upstream, downstream. But they're just fishy. Like you have elevated, positions in the front and the back of the boat where you're casting from, which gives you an advantage for, obviously casting, but not only that, hook setting and fighting the fish. You've just got that much more leverage for them. You can bend your rod and bring those fish up way quicker than you would if you're submerged. I mean, that's just like, I don't know, geometry.
I think one of the other big components of a drift boat being that much fishier too is, if you have a good person on the oars.
Oh, big time.
You can put yourself into positions to catch fish. And like, for instance, with my river boat, which, is rocking a tiller, it's not easy maneuverable. I can't put us into position all the time. My position is to anchor and, pick apart that spot and then go to the next spot. You got that person on the oars, you're locked in, you're on, you're within 15 to 20 feet of each side that you need to fish, and that person's putting you into a position to catch fish.
And from that perspective too, is as a guide, it's great because you can kind of cheat. Like you can, on the oars, have your customers and clients get considerably better presentations because you're matching the speed of the current, and they don't have to learn a lot of the tricks with line management. You're just simplifying everything for them. So
I was like blown away out there filming with you guys because like you and John both, which John, a good friend of yours,
John Ryerson,
did you guys guide out west together?
Yep, lived together out west. He is one of the best archery hunters I've ever met for elk.
We'll have to go up to the deer camp up there and do a podcast up there. But
Live podcast.
And trust me, we'd be having some backstraps. That's no question to ask.
Well, you and John, just the way you maneuvered the boat was insane. Like we didn't hit anything.
Yep.
And it looked, you guys made it look so easy. You're just like, basically look like you're wiggling back and forth all day. But the maneuverability in such a weird shaped boat was like insane for me. And you both are really good. You can row forward, backward, upside down.
Crab walking, side to side, shimmying.
But the cool shit about the boat was it looks really small, but you get in it, and there were 3 of us in this boat, and it was not cramped at all.
We had a big like Yeti 65 in there too. We had, they're deceiving. And you still, even fully loaded, you're still only drafting 4 inches. So you can
there was a lot of shit in that boat. I mean, all my camera gear, you guys had 2 giant fly fishing bags full of shit, like 5 or 6 rods.
Yep. All the safety gear.
Ton of beverage.
Oh, yeah. All the safety gear.
I won't say what kind.
No.
Delicious.
Oh, absolutely.
Spent $300 at the gas station.
And we're in it now, boys.
Yep. And, man, fishing was not good. It was definitely just the fishing. No, but yeah,
we were up there to film.
that boat and most drift boats in general, like that's the best part about them. They're lightweight, they're maneuverable, but they're so darn sturdy. Like those things. I mean, again, there's a reason they put a lifetime warranty on the hull.
Yeah.
But if you and this, you're a pretty big guy. Like you step on the gunnel. And that thing does not shift.
I sat in front most of the time.
So steady, and you're not. It takes a lot to try to flip one of those. Like you'd have to go into a wave sideways and hit a rock, and then really, jump or javelin and try to freaking flip that thing over. But no, it's not like a canoe like that. Like you can keep that thing right side up. I'm telling you, you have to try. To flip a drift boat.
Absolutely.
And they look cool. They look like weird banana.
They're dope.
Bananas.
They're dope.
And you got to think about it too. Like there's so many, motor boat type of manufacturers out there that they're all competing with each other. You get into the drift boat world, and it's pretty niche market.
Yep.
And you've got to be pretty on your game and have, maybe one or two things that stand out from the next competitor. But you have to have a solid product to have that, mass sold through the states, the 50 states. Because, typically they're, in one state, kind of sell locally and then branch out.
Yep.
You're talking drift boats that he's rocking one for Montana, and you see them all throughout the 50 states in general. So boat manufacturing in the drift boat world is huge.
Big time.
It's
Big time.
you have to have a quality product that's going to get you A to B, and get you on fish at the same time, make it easier to get on fish at the same time.
Yep, that row well. And then, there's all different formats and that you can, like, I kind of tailored mine around what I wanted. Mm-hmm. So my rowing station, I've got a 3/4 bench so people can actually walk around it. I have a lot of good dry storage, but it's just preferential at that point. But yeah, to your point, man, they're versatile. Mm-hmm. There's a reason that they sell so well.
Right.
Here I had a guy follow me all the way to Maumee Bay State Park when I was getting my registration for the boat. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, dude, who is this? Why is this guy following me?
He's gonna murder me and steal my
seriously,
boat.
They're gonna find parts of my body in Lake Erie. So yeah, he ended up stopping, and he's like, I just wanted to stop and see what that boat is. That thing looks sweet. I'm like, yeah, it's just a drift boat. It's like, a drift boat? What's a drift boat? Like, it's a river boat. If you lived out west or lived, anywhere where there's
common,
navigable trout streams, chances are you're gonna have seen a drift boat. But
right.
They are fantastic. Like, it's kind of upsetting sometimes for me if I'm like used to fishing off the drift boat and I'm on like a small inland lake or on a river and I'm on like a John boat or something. I'm like, God damn it. Like, if I only could be on a drift boat, because they're just fishy. They're just set up to catch fish. It's beautiful.
Yeah, there's no luxury and leisure about it. It's
the
what
seats are comfy,
do?
but it's no frills.
Yeah.
But man, do they function.
Well, you guys are always talking like
And
gear.
you can throw those things down like mountainsides and
they're durable they're intended to be. Most places you want to get in don't have a boat ramp.
Yeah, especially in Michigan.
Like,
turns out it's like worse than Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, some of the diciest spots. But,
the best ones are almost all homemade or DNR.
Yep,
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, railroad ties.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Just slide it down, guys.
Railroad ties.
Hey, you're gonna need a couple of extra ratchet straps and 2 more dudes.
Right.
But,
what do you guys? So when you're out fishing for these, trout, you're out there for these giant ass salmon. Mm-hmm. What kind of rods and what kind of equipment are you going out there with? I know, like, for you guys, you're always talking about the different kind of flies and stuff that you're using, or the bait's kind of super important. But I have no idea. Like, I don't.
It's funny with fly fishing too. Is it makes you such a better outdoorsman, and
you almost have to be like
scientist.
A naturalist. You almost have to understand things at a deeper level.
Ichthyology, aquatic entomology, the importance of dendrology, even learning what kind of species of trees are out there that are like willows, for instance, cleaning up water and hydrology, and God, man, the list goes on on of scientific sex, I guess. But yeah, you've got to understand, or at least have a basic understanding of how all these things are interconnected, and you become a better fisherman for it. So you're improving, you're refining your knowledge, which helps you become a better fisherman. But it's also, to me, it's so enriching that you're becoming a better person. Like, fly fishing is one of those kind of existential things. Like,
well, we're out there and you're talking about oh, you see that bug? And you're like, I'm going to use this. And you're like switching lures every 2 seconds, switching flies. It's just insane to have that being that in touch with what you're doing. Because I grew up just regular fishing for bass. You just use
which all of us have.
Absolutely.
I don't know many people, if any, that were like, oh, here's a fly rod. I don't use those Zebco push button rods. You 4-year-old. Why don't you have this 9-foot?
I've got 20 jitterbugs in my tackle box. That's all I got. I got a collection.
It's funny too, because people will come up here and they're like, do you guys do conventional fishing too? It's like, yeah, of course we do. Like, that's where we all got our background.
Yeah.
And anybody who can go out and catch things on a fly rod, you know, dollars to donuts, those guys can go out there and gals can go out there and rip lips with conventional stuff. I mean, it's actually easier to pattern fish a lot of times with conventional, and we still do that.
Yeah,
like,
that's how you find new patterns.
Trips,
that's how you find new water.
100%.
That's how you find new patterns in different types of water, temperatures, levels, and
where the fish are. They're
on.
like what kind of presentation they're at, where in the water column, if they want a vertical, or a horizontal type presentation, what kind of baits they're eating, because then you can just go back to the drawing board and then apply what's happening with the conventional to how you approach it with flies.
Right.
So when we musky fish up on Lake St. Clair, like, the guide, I try to implore to my guides, like, look, don't fish. These are teachable moments every time you're out there. But there's times where you absolutely, as a guide, need to wet your line. Like steelhead fishing, when you're just, they can be an enigma. I mean, you think you'll have them figured out one day, and the next day you go out and you're like, what happened to these fish? It's the same air temps, same barometric pressure, same flows, same water temps, and they can be gone. So I don't know.
How much of that is like mysticism? Like, you guys probably have like all these taboos and stuff, and how much of it is just like intuitive? Like, because I hear you guys talk shit out there on the rivers. Like, I'm like, what are they? Like, oh, they're getting a little frisky. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, how do you?
There's mysticism, I guess.
Absolutely.
But Ryan, I think there's also science attached to that.
There absolutely is, and I think even in the conventional world, it's still there. But in the fly fishing world, it's magnified because you're out there going at a harder tactic.
Specialized.
Yeah, and going into it, like, your rate of catch probably could be less. You're gonna have your days where you're gonna have the greatest success rate, just like a conventional fisherman might have. But you're going out to it saying, I need to have a much more like narrow-minded focus on what's happening here. What's the water level? What's the temperature? What's hatching? What is, the motivation of this fish today? And not to say you're not going to have that in a conventional world, but you can make it a much bigger handicap when you're conventional fishing.
Yeah. And, and that comes like, for me, it's like gun hunting and then archery. It's kind of like that next progression. But yeah, I mean, that's part of why I love it so much.
Right.
Is it makes, again, it's not just like a better person, but it makes you a smarter person. You're
hunt, really.
Exactly. You become almost hyper aware of all of these components and connections, like ecologically. I mean, it's the interconnections of all of these different species at play, and you're like, man, like, wow, this, and you're going out there and using the scientific method without even realizing it. Like, hey, man, all right, I'm going to test this hypothesis.
Right. And
then after a while, like, it's your question, like, yeah, a lot of it does become intuitive and intuition because you've done it so many times that it just, like, you don't even think about it anymore. But in your brain, you're still going through all those, like, well, you didn't like that, so let's try this at this depth and see what happens. And then, hey, if it doesn't work, check it off.
Right.
If it does, you're like, all right, put that one in the old memory bank and, kind of observe like the conditions you're in, where, like, what kind of water you're on. And then later on down the road, how many times do you do that? Like, you're just drawing off the data bank.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, every day you go out, even if you go get your ass handed to you. And honestly, as I get older, it's some of those days are more memorable and fun.
Definitely.
When you go out on a completely new river, lake, whatever, and you know nothing about it, but guess what? You start going through your progressions like a quarterback, and you find something that works, and it's like, dude, yes.
Right.
And then you can use that the rest of your days to follow up on and draw back to. And dude, it usually leads you to success. So, I mean, that's honestly how I've gotten to be where I'm at from a fishing perspective. Just by being a human being that learns from mistakes and tries new things. But man, just let your gut do the talking for you. My mom was always right.
Well, we'll see about that.
Give me 2 years to stick this blade.
So I got kind of like a two-part question for you. Since you guys are both local boys here in Toledo, Maumee, Sylvania area, whatever. So the Maumee River, you know, big passion of mine. Like, I just always talking about it. So for a two-part question, both of you, if someone were walking to your shop right now and said, I've never done this before, I want to start fly fishing, what would you tell them to buy first off, and then what would you tell them to go for on the Maumee?
Let me take this first. So the thing is, and this question is very relevant because I get it asked a lot. I've been to too many shops that, you know, people are trying to, you know, act like they are the king of knowledge and kind of talk down to you. You know, not only that, they also they get the bro bra card, or like, oh yeah, hey man, what's up, man, like, and think that they know more than you do, and that never bodes well. So like with this shop, I pride myself on just leveling with people, and I'll ask basic questions like, look, how often do you think you're going to do this down the road? Is this something that you could see yourself doing, you know, pretty often? Because if so, then I would go the route where you get an entry-level rod from a trusted company like Reddington's. TFOs are good beginner rods. Like,
absolutely.
You know, they have a lifetime warranty on them. You know, I think some of the Reddingtons are like $139.99 for just the rod.
Something you can put in the corner and be okay with.
For sure. Yeah. And it's a 4-piece rod. It comes in a PVC, like a nice rod tube. If you break it, you send it in for $25. Yep. They send you a brand new rod back. So you consider it kind of a lifetime investment. It's really easy to justify spending $139.99 on a rod, spending $119 on a reel. Same thing. Like, trusted company, warranted for life. You know, has a smooth drag. And then the thing you are going to want to splurge on is your fly line. But at least, you know, when people come in, you ask the right questions, and then you can actually give them proper answers where it's not just you trying to line your pocket and like, oh yeah, you definitely need the Sage X rod, which is $850, and you definitely need an Able reel, which is like another $1,000.
And put the trout paint on it because you don't even fish for trout.
It's sexy. So it's more about trying to listen to your customers and give them good information, because, you know, I've been in that situation, man. We all have. We've all been the new 100%. Guy. And like, I know for me, I don't know about you, like the shops that I would go into, and they had the guy behind the counter who was knowledgeable, who didn't talk down to me, and he just leveled with me. Mm-hmm. I always devoted my loyalty to that. Absolutely. So that's how I kind of, you know, that's kind of one of my blueprints for the shop. It's just like, dude, don't bullshit people. There's enough bullshitters in fly fishing and fishing in general for, you know, twice the population of the world. Well, so it's nice. It's nice to have somebody who actually is knowledgeable and doesn't blow smoke up your ass.
Yeah, and you're going to get the benefit out of that by buying something that fits and caters to you too.
And then people are going to be happy with what they get, and then they're going to be like, "Hey, man, I don't know if you've been up to the shop, but they're actually giving you good information, and they're not just greedy bastards trying to, you know."
And they're going to learn off that, you know, gear and come back regardless for whether it's a trip or upgrades or whatever.
For sure.
It's such a different experience than going to like one of the bigger stores where it's like, you're just, you know, there's some guy there probably getting paid minimum wage to just like, you know, I don't think anybody that works at like a giant store, I won't say any names, but
is happy.
Well, no, not even that. Like, I just,
or retired.
You know, it's like you work there because you like that, but you don't have another option. Like, obviously, not everybody can own their own fly shop.
No.
It's like,
I worked at Bass Pro for a year, man. Yeah. I like before I opened the shop. I get it.
Yeah, so it's like it's just a whole different experience because you can walk through the fishing section at a store like that for like 2 hours and have no idea what you're looking at, and there might be one guy working.
Who might not talk to you.
Know, that he might be a little busy at the receiving desk. But no, like and that's the thing too is, like when I was there, Hunter was working there too, super knowledgeable kid. We, between the both of us, we had, you know, more days on the water guiding wise than, God, I mean, anyone in the entire fishing department. So it's hard to maintain that type of expertise from an employment standpoint. when you're a big box store and you're paying kids $10.25 an hour, it's like, how could you ever retain, that type of expertise? Whereas, like a shop like this, dude, it's an enjoyable place to come in and just hang out, jam out to whatever tunes you want to.
Always old country music.
Oh, man.
Or 90s hip-hop.
We get down. We get down. But it's just as intrusive as we can get.
Yeah.
Death metal as soon as the old people walk in. Like, yeah, what's up, guys? But no, it's an enjoyable place that you look forward to coming to work.
You got freaking Meat Eater on the TV right now.
Oh, there you go.
Back here.
And usually, there's a whole lot of
fly fishing shows.
Yep.
But anyway,
I digress.
Yeah. So, you get the gear and then you head out on the Maumee. What are you telling people to target? I mean, there's a ton of fish in this river.
Smallmouth is what I tell people.
Absolutely smallmouth. Yep. And I'd even say, if you're getting into that beginner fly fisherman stage, the white bass run is about
so
as fun as you can get. That thing is lights out, on fire. They're one of the most aggressive fish we have in the state in general, and in a lot of states actually. And get out there and you can use a lot of different techniques, streamers, small actually hex type of things, and I'd say mostly bait fish type patterns.
Yep.
But you can get out there very cheap, very rudimentary. Get in there with a beginner kit or, an advanced kit, and get in there and just absolutely love tearing out the small or the white bass, I should say.
It's funny too, because it gets to the point where you're like, well, what can I not catch them
exactly
today? And you just go through the gauntlet of flies. I haven't thrown a blank hook yet, but I've definitely thrown like just a little bit of red thread on a hook and still caught them. But the Maumee's cool too, because you'll go out and target smallmouth, but you have opportunities. We've had days where we caught 7 different species, including smallmouth. You're like, what? What are we? And on the same fly in a 200-yard stretch of river. Like, oh, hey, white bass, white perch, rock bass, sheephead, channel cat, long-nosed gar.
Yeah. Saw guy,
carp.
Yeah.
Like, what do you... There's so many opportunities. Flatheads.
Right.
Like, you never know what you're going to catch, which is kind of a beautiful thing. It's like, well, shit, what's this one going to be?
Dude, those catfish in the Maumee.
They get large.
Holy
super big.
They get large. Could you imagine noodling for those things?
No.
That's like the big
scary shit.
Yeah.
I was out there one time canoeing, and it was right under the, basically right before the Roche de Boeuf Bridge.
Yeah.
One of them, it was the water was super shallow. Like, we're talking like less than an inch, and it was all like bare rock out there. So we're basically walking the canoe, and dude, there's this catfish. It's got to be 3.5, 4 foot long, and it had died, and there was a big hole in the top of its head. I got to see if I can find this picture, because if people on YouTube, I'm going to put it on there. Huge hole in the back of its head that an eagle had eaten its like body out. It was nuts, but I couldn't believe the size of this thing. Like,
gnarly.
Just to think that shit's swimming under you, so awesome.
Normally they like brains.
Yeah, it was
That's
like
weird.
the back of the head, like just this huge gouged out hole.
Right.
It was just like filling up with water.
And when they've got like plenty of prey, they'll just eat brains. Like,
do you blame them though?
You wasteful bastards.
They love America, man.
It's like, they are like the pioneers just eating tongues from bison.
They're
and
literally
called
the American eagle, man.
Yeah, that's true.
Hell yeah,
it's my favorite place to shop.
You look like it,
right?
I feel like you just came out of a Patagonia catalog.
Well, I mean, it's good gear, man.
So smallmouth on the Maumee.
Yep,
that's
typically that's what we're
I would say
targeting.
that's the bread and butter.
Yep,
and then
white bass run.
Once you want to get into numbers game, beginner game, white bass is the way to go. Walleye's definitely not the way to go. Winter pike. Winter pike is huge.
Not many people know about that run, man.
Yeah,
and there's 40-inch pike that run up to Providence.
Especially in the small creeks.
Yep, and they'll go into those tribs like Beaver Creek up there.
Absolutely.
And then even the those side pools up by Providence. I don't know how they get in there, but dude, they're in there. Like, there's, again, 40-inch pike. That's no slouch. That's a 20-pound fish for the most part.
Holy shit.
I mean, if you think about it, too, think of all of the bait fish in the Maumee alone. And then, obviously Lake Erie's got more biomass than all the other Great Lakes combined. Like that is a pretty fascinating stat. Like, my God.
Yep.
So, if you're a apex predator,
Well,
I would be certainly following my way
Right.
down to, like, there's a reason why I think more and more muskie are coming down from the Detroit River and Lake St. Clair. They're just following all these hordes of bait.
it brings me back to my initial point that I've made on everything I've ever done, is that I'm so sick of people bitching about Ohio. You moved back to Ohio from out west. That's like the chosen land of everything that all of us love to do. And you're back in Toledo, Ohio, or Sylvania, whatever.
Doing what I love.
Same difference, basically.
Right.
Like,
It is.
like, I don't get that mindset. It just blows me. I do understand it to an extent because nobody talks about this shit. But, like,
I think it's just laziness.
I
is
don't
what
even
it
know if
comes
it's that.
down
Like,
to.
who's talking about this? Like, you and your circle of friends, Ryan and his circle of friends, me and people I know, and like these nerds out here that love nature talking about this shit. But, like,
Just talking about nature.
Yeah,
They don't
nobody's doing it.
It's just like,
that's all we do.
Just let's do an indoor talk. About
Indoor
nature.
talk about nature.
I think one of the biggest things about in the Midwest and in the Great Lakes region is everyone wants to move away, and we all take. I think we even talked about it at the other podcast.
We'll continue
And I think
to
it's
forever.
a good thing for people
we
to
we
do
want to
it.
go on vacations that are away from it. We want to go out west, and we want to go out east, especially out west for fly fishing too. I mean, it is such a persona to go to Montana
100%.
and go to Wyoming and go
It's
to
sweet.
all these places. Absolutely,
It's not uncool.
I want to, yeah, absolutely. I
Let's
want to
not say that.
No,
Yes.
not at
It's-
all.
it's-
But I want those to be my vacations at this point, and I don't know that I could ever leave the Great Lakes. I don't know. I mean, it's so versatile. It's so untapped in a sense, and even when you think you have it tapped, you don't.
There's so much going on.
Yeah.
I mean, all those lakes are connected, obviously. But yeah, I mean, for me, it took leaving for that long to really come back and truly appreciate all the stuff that we have. I mean, like, oak openings being a globally rare ecosystem. Like, I had no
Exactly.
idea about that. And then, like, to come back and discover all of these new fisheries and watersheds, and it's like, dude, we had trout out in Colorado. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I love trout fishing. That's probably, well, steelhead, but they are technically a trout. It's my favorite fish to pursue, but the variety that we
Right.
have here, and it makes you such a better fisherman too, because you've got so many different games to learn. But to your point, like, yeah, there's so much cool shit around here that if you just scratch a little bit below the surface, man, like, you can keep yourself occupied for a lifetime. And then, like, Ryan, what you're saying, like, yeah, dude, we can vacation.
Right.
Toledo's going to be here. We
Yeah.
got plenty of stuff to do.
Well, yeah, it's not
And
like you don't
shit,
go-
Let's go to the Bahamas.
Right.
Let's go, let's
Yeah.
go to Alaska. Let's go to
Right.
eventually New Zealand or
Exactly.
Argentina
Right,
or
yeah.
wherever,
Argentina, yeah.
Yep.
And I think when you go look at like the inland 50 states, like, that whole, I'll even call it mid to west coast, you only have a certain amount of species that you're really trophy targeting, browns, huge rainbows, maybe tiger trout,
Brookies,
maybe bulls and brookies, right? You go into Michigan, you have that same smorgasbord plus smallmouth,
Big
muskie,
smallmouth.
pike,
Yep.
salmon, steelhead. You'll probably call them lake round rainbows, whatever the hell you
yeah.
want to call them. But I mean, the list goes on. I mean, it's a full platter of what lots of other states have centralized as a big combined, smorgasbord of fun, and all those can be trophy fisheries. All those guys make their living off of. All those fly shops, just like here, make their living off of. And you don't have that in a lot of states where you have that many species called
True.
trophy target
Yeah.
fish.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's and it's not just here. Like, you draw, I said this earlier today, you draw that circle 3 hours. And
Right.
I mean, you can extend that even to 4, but you have so much diversity to these fisheries that, like, you're putting years of your experience that you never would have thought would come into play, and you're like, man, I have seen something like this.
Right.
I'm going to try what worked for me, 12 years ago as a kid fishing for whatever. It's. I mean, I sound like I'm doing a commercial for Michigan and Ohio and this region.
You should be.
But there's absolutely like some of the coolest, most memorable places to fish that dude, you can take your kids, you can, like, I've got 3 almost right now.
Two and one in the oven.
2 weeks, man.
Woo!
She's due. Yep. And the other's in diapers.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Talk to me then. I'm probably looking a lot more tired than I do right now, and I'm feeling tired.
There's a lot of guiding coming up.
Yeah, gosh, a lot of scouting missions.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're in a very, very unique, cool spot. The Great Lakes, they're great for a reason. That obviously,
Absolutely.
I mean, aptly named. But we have so much good water around us, and it's if you just get your asses outside. And immerse yourself in it, you're gonna realize we're in a pretty goddamn cool place.
Oh, for sure.
That's what I'm here to preach. That's my whole existence is based around that, and like that's why I started this. And
people
I won't
put their
stop.
nose up at it, and it's like, dude, what the,
There's nothing to do in Ohio.
it sucks here.
It's true, and and I think I admitted it, to you earlier a few weeks ago. I mean, even the locals leave the local water completely untapped. I mean, I've just now gotten into trying to figure out the smallmouth game on the Maumee, and I'm the only one out there. Period. End of sentence. And I should have been doing it from day one of childhood into fishing till now and have it mastered, but I didn't. But no one did
Nobody
here.
did.
No one did
for sure.
And now that I'm trying to figure it out, it's peaceful. It's fun. It's bringing in the local backyard aspect into it, and dude, there is trophy smallmouth in there. There really is,
man. And every year you're buying a tag. Your money's going directly into conservation and habitat restoration and habitat acquisition. It's like, without us going out and hunting and fishing, like we wouldn't have wildlife and fish to catch. Like I think a lot of people, especially in the animal rights and PETA side of things, it's like, look, yeah, I'm not into cruelty to animals. I hunt because I love wild game, and it's as organic as you're going to get, and I know exactly where that animal came from. I'm processing it. Like, I know exactly what's happened, where it's at, what it was eating, and I honor that animal by eating as much of it as possible.
Well, it's so much better than going to the store. You don't know. You have no idea what the hell that animal's been eating, it's been injected with. I mean, a deer or whatever. I mean, you've hunted out west, elk and stuff. That's a whole different ballgame.
Muleys and antelope, all that good stuff.
But like, even around here, there's so much sport in deer hunting. I mean, there's waterfowl hunting. There's just so much. And Ryan touched on this when he was on the podcast earlier before. And just like, I've gotten into deer hunting within the last couple of years. It went from, basically just gun to extending it all with archery. And archery, not only do we have, I think we're at 2 free archery parks here now, plus a shitload of like private clubs. But archery is like, it's like the fly fishing of hunting.
It really
is. It's so badass.
It really is.
I've become obsessed with it, and it's so fun. And it's the same thing. You buy a $500, $600, $700, $800 fishing or fly rod. You're gonna have a much better. It's gonna feel better. It's gonna be better. I just bought like almost $1,000 bow, and I'm just like, thank God. Like this, my life is perfect right now. Like I go from shooting like a real shitty circle to just like nailing it every time.
Now you had a bow before that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
piece of shit.
So the thing is too, like when people come into the shop to buy stuff, it's like, look, you don't need to go out and buy, the Maserati of fly rods.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't even know what your preferences are.
You don't even know if you like it.
So exactly, great. Do you go out and golf and go and buy a set of Callaways right off the bat if you don't know if you even like it? No. Like, start off with some knockoff Tommy Armours or something. Same thing goes. But like I was saying earlier, with the entry level guaranteed rods, if you're going to do this for a while, or if you've got kids that possibly you want to hand it off to, or, eventually, you're going to want to upgrade, but it's always good to have a backup rod that you can trust.
Or if you got a buddy that wants to go.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
I got
It's always good to know a guy who owns a fly shop.
Right.
Yeah, man. Tell you what. But yeah, I mean, and that's something that people should think about when they're going to buy stuff. It's like, look, you can go buy a piece of shit from Bass Pro or Cabela's or Fin Feathered Furs.
You've talked me out of that many times.
You're going to regret it. You're going to be like, shit, I could have used that $80 or $100 that I got a whole combo with and put that towards the thing that I should have absolutely bought.
Which is
that
probably
Brad
fly
told me to
line.
buy.
Which is probably fly line
exactly,
at the end of the
with
day.
the combos,
Yeah.
they show you shit. And those rods a lot of times are just noodles, like the Hobbs Creek ones. But just if you listen to the right people and understand that you're not going to get taken advantage of if you're at the right spot.
Right.
Go to Cabela's, go buy a piece of shit that you're going to regret, or just listen to somebody who's made that mistake. Well, myself.
Absolutely, myself included.
And like, God, why didn't I just put that towards,
Dude,
a St. Croix or something at that point in time?
I can attest to this because I grew up, my dad, he loves fishing. Okay. He's like, it's like what he does in the summer. He just hangs out, bass fishes, hangs out. We've always had like garage sale rods or like the on sale ones from Cabela's or whatever. And like, that's all I ever knew. And then I started getting a little more into it, going walleye fishing with Bill. You know Bill. Mm-hmm. On Lake Erie.
Unfortunately.
Anyway, him and his buddy talked me into getting like a nicer walleye rod. And, I spent like $100-$150 on this rod.
Man,
and I'm just like,
difference.
holy shit. And you've
You
taken
can
me out
actually
bass
feel
fishing
the
with some nice
nibble.
stuff
Yep.
on your a pontoon boat out at your dad's place.
Yep,
We've
in
gone out a
Harbor.
couple. It's so awesome. And like, people don't understand, like, it's a fishing rod is a fishing rod is a fishing rod. Like, no. Like, you start going up there in price. And like, I'm always a proponent of what you were saying. Like, you don't need the nicest shit to start out.
Right.
Like, just do it, and if you don't like it, then you're only out $50.
Exactly, and that's part of like the guide trip stuff too that we do. Like a 2-hour guide trip for $100, or for one person, 150 for two, 200 for three. You're not breaking the bank, and we provide everything.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, if you do, you're going to get a glorified lesson that you can actually catch fish. Not only are you going to learn how to cast, you're going to learn how to present flies a couple different ways. And we tailor those trips around, whatever anybody wants to do anyways. Like if it's like, hey, I just want to go bluegill fishing, on my farm pond. It's like, all right, well, this is how we're going to tailor this trip for you. But, again, you're not spending a whole hell of a lot. If you got 3 of your buddies splitting $200, and it isn't a big deal in the long run, especially because you're going to get, the instruction. You're going to find out if it's for you or not. And then if you do, hey, you just had a guide who took you out and can tell you exactly what you're going to want to get.
Shit, you're going to spend more than that going to Cedar Point for the day.
Right?
Ride
for
roller
sure.
coasters.
For sure.
Oh, my God.
That's a steal.
And a $5 Aquafina. Oh, my God.
You should start selling $5 Aquafinas on your boat.
Oh, they're so terrible. They got that funky taste, too, man. I don't know what it is.
Something
But,
about it's not good.
oh, man.
But
Fucking Aquafina.
Ryan hit on this earlier before.
I probably interrupted him.
No, I'm talking about our last podcast we did together.
Gotcha.
Dream fly fishing trip. What did you tell me it was?
I was looking at the time, and I said this always changes year to year.
Yeah.
Always changes. I'm always looking at something different. I want to go do, and usually it's spawned from some type of film I watched. I'm sure Alaska is always the bucket trip, because even if you've been there, there's so much different to do there. But my recent one has been bull trout in British Columbia.
BC or Alberta.
British Columbia, bullies.
For sure.
Streamer
For sure.
fishing for bullies.
Which you can't do legally in the continental
Exactly.
U.S., although you can drag double bunny streamers on the bottom for cutthroat. Or if you hook a cutthroat, just let them play out a little bit over the dark water. And, it's like a pike on a perch.
Right.
Like they just can't say no.
So my question to you, Brad, since you've been doing this shit forever,
I've been doing it since I was 12 and I'm 36, and I was illegally guiding for 2 years in Colorado, unbeknownst to me and my shop owner. You're supposed to be 21 when you're guiding. I started when I was 19. So there's not many people that have as many guide days at my age, especially But go
Breaking
ahead.
the law.
Go ahead.
Where are you gonna go? Well, if you had the unlimited bank fund, where are you gonna
Oh,
do
my
your
goodness.
your prized possession dream
Man,
trip?
There'd be a couple, and I'll narrow it down. But just to start out, I
feel like we're getting global here.
We're getting global. Like New Zealand, I would love to do and combine that with Australia for like just go there for a month.
They're pretty close.
Yeah, for sure. But you gotta do both. If you're gonna travel across the whole world, you might as well spend enough time there and get to see. The Barrier Reef is intriguing as shit to me. Like that captivates me. In New Zealand, Middle Earth. Go hang out with some hobbits and then go catch some of these big brown trout.
Don't get me started on Lord of the Rings, man. We'll be here all night.
I love that, dude. I love those books. Argentina and Chile with Patagonia, and you have these sea run brown trout that are introduced. And actually, have you seen some of those big king salmon?
Oh, they're nuts.
They're insanely
they're
big.
nuts.
Like somebody just caught an 83-pounder, which is insane.
Yeah, they're nuts.
So that's on the bucket list. Iceland for Atlantic salmon, and big brownies, like big brownies. Those are definitely top three, but that changes, like you're saying, right? Like every
All
year,
time, man.
just like the Seychelles for giant Jack Trevallies. That's
I don't even know what the hell that
Madagascar.
means.
It's over by and you would have to fly into like 5 different airports and then take a mothership out there. It's just nothing. There's nothing out there except big ass fish. Seychelles and gosh, we're trying to think. And somewhere in South America where I could catch golden dorado.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Streamer fishing in Russia.
Yep.
Kamchatka.
Although those helicopters scare the
Dude.
shit out of me, especially with what happened with Kobe.
Bucket trip.
Rest in
Yeah,
peace
rest
to
in peace,
him.
Kobe,
And
but
prayers to his family, man.
I still
My
would
Lord.
get on that next helicopter for Kamchatka trout,
would be
man.
like Mongolia for taimen, which is the world's largest salmonid. They are huge, and you're throwing streamers that are,
Right.
12 to 16 inches. Like some of them you can't get big enough.
That's like musky style,
Exactly. So you better do a lot of arms and back workouts,
Yeah.
like deltoids are going to be a big thing.
now.
Right.
Tuesdays are arms and back. And then, just trying to narrow it down from there and try to convince my wife that we need to go to these strange
Absolutely.
places.
It's all in the phrasing.
True.
You got to set it up to look like a vacation, but really you're
My
just going to go
wife's too
fishing.
smart.
I know. She's much smarter than you.
Bust my ass. Oh yeah, I'll give her credit for that.
Yeah,
but I'm a way better outdoorsman.
I would hope
when
so.
it comes to survival, I got us.
got
but
Good.
when it comes to making bread, she does a pretty good job.
So that's a good situation to be in. So, hey man, we're about at an hour.
Are we really?
Yeah, we've
Wow.
been chatting. I told you it was nothing to worry
It
about.
doesn't go-
We just have fun. I want to thank you for first letting us do this in your
No,
shop.
absolutely, man. You guys should do this more often.
We
Come up
will be
here
back
and-
for sure, man. I
don't even care who you bring in here.
I created this because I wanted to hang out with my friends and have a reason to do it. And drink beer on the weekdays.
It's almost
So-
like you're married.
Yeah, you'd think. But to set off the podcast to end tonight, I want you to tell everyone that crazy story about when you ran into a cougar,
Oh shit.
and not the one at the bar, the one in the woods. I want to hear that
All
one.
right.
I've already heard the other one too many times.
So this is guiding in Colorado, and you're aware that there's a lot of mountain lions because there's no wolves. Well, there's wolves in Colorado, but they had been extirpated and hadn't quite wandered down south. Hadn't winded all of our elk at that point. So there's times where you're walking around the mountains and the hair stands up on your arms, and
Yeah,
you just
I
know
can
you're
imagine.
being watched. But at that point, I had never had a mountain lion encounter. So I was guiding on a Friday evening, 4-hour evening trip. And I walked down, it was the Big Thompson Canyon, which is, off Highway 34 that goes up to Rocky Mountain National Park from the plains. So it's just one of my honey holes. It's one of these few areas where you actually have a riparian area between the road and the river. So you had a good, lush green, floodplain basically. So 20 to 30 yards between you and where you have to drop down from the road. So I dropped down and noticed that there is a bighorn sheep horn just protruding out of it, a really, really intricately covered up grassy spot. It looked like Vietnamese thatched roofing. It was that
Wow.
in depth. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I figured it was probably, somebody who had poached it and was covering it and was going to come back for it. So once I got back in cell phone service, I called DNR and was like, look, I don't know what's going on, if this thing got, road killed or, somebody poached this thing, but you guys need to check it out. To me, it just seems a little bit suspect at how well this thing was covered up. So I didn't hear anything back. That was that Friday evening. And then Saturday, they'd called me for better directions. And they're like, well, okay, so we looked where you had given us direction. We didn't find anything. Is there anything else you could do for us to help us locate it? So I'm like, absolutely. So told them, a little bit more. And the next day, I went down there to guide. And I was fortunately about 20 to 30 feet in front of my clients, walking kind of around the roadside, drop down this grassy riparian area. And I hear a twig snap. And I look up, and there's about 175 pound Tom mountain lion staring at me right on top of this bighorn. And yeah, I mean, I shit a brick, dude. It was I
could imagine.
I would love to have seen my face at that moment and how flush it had to have been. So I froze, and fortunately, that mountain lion took off and went. It crossed the river and up that mountainside and disappeared like that. I mean, it was so fast how it was still moving, and I couldn't pick that thing out after 10 seconds. So
that is a muscular animal.
No joke. And so I get back into cell phone range, and I have a voicemail, and it's like, hey, this is Rick from DOW. Yeah, we went and found the bighorn sheep. That was a mountain lion kill. We kicked it up. You might not want to guide down there for the next week or so until he finishes up the animal, but we really appreciate you calling in, which would have been the ultimate insult to injury while I'm sitting in a hospital bed mauled, and could have been avoided because I didn't get the voicemail in time. But needless to say, after that encounter, I started carrying a Glock 30 on my hip, just because A, they're quality weapons, and B, if it's good enough for the Navy SEALs, it's good enough for me. But yeah, fortunately, I never had to use it. But that was 10 feet, 15 feet from a 170-pound Tom mountain lion.
Absolutely
unbelievable. That
amazing.
was one that. You'll never forget. It's kind of surreal when it happens. You're like, is this happening to me? Is this a movie? Kind of looking at yourself from the outside in. But it was a profound moment in my outdoor career for sure.
Love that story so much. And on that note, I don't think we can get any more peak than that. I want to thank
that's epic.
Ryan Martin. Thanks for coming
shit.
back again. Bradley Dunkle.
Yeah.
Thank you for
thanks for having
to
me,
your
man.
shop.
Thanks
We'll be back again.
Absolutely.
And peace out, world. Aptitude Outdoors podcast coming
Cheers,
at you
boys.
strong for the rest of your lives. You're stuck with it.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
I want you.
This is what I do without radio to entertain myself.
Hey YouTube, thank you so much for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe. We have so much content lined up. It's insane. I don't even know how I'm gonna edit it all and get it out to you, but I'm super stoked. So remember, please subscribe. Keep coming back for more Aptitude Outdoors.